Let's queer up the USA view. New report shows increase in hate crimes in most major U.S. cities in 2022. Most of the nation's 10 largest cities had significant jumps in hate crimes last year, with an average 22% and a record 1,889 cases. It's the second straight year of increases in big cities' overall average number of hate crimes, typically defined as violence stemming from victims' race, color, sexuality, religion, or national origin. The still unpublished report by the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism at California State University, San Bernardino, reflects a 22-year trend of increasing hate crimes nationwide, amid a rise in white nationalism and soaring numbers of attacks on Asian Americans during the pandemic. Los Angeles reported the most hate crimes, a record 609, with 195 of those classified as anti-Black, 98 as anti-gay male, 91 as anti-Jewish, and 88 as anti-Latino. Chicago had the biggest increase, followed by Austin, Texas. Among smaller cities, Sacramento saw the most significant rise in hate crimes, followed by Kansas City. There are positive signs for some big cities in the report. Phoenix, San Diego, and San Antonio had significant declines in hate crimes last year. Well, this is, I think, personally, this is yet another disturbing malignancy of the Trump legacy. These numbers, these are all reflective of the period that, when it was in power. And I think it's going to take a lifetime for this kind of violence to dissipate, if it does.
Well, I also want to point out that as a social scientist, that this data can be can have a sort of reporting bias. When we notice that Chicago, these are all liberal cities, but they're all very, very large cities. And LA have a spike in hate crimes. I'm like, what? But also, what I don't think is happening is that Phoenix, a red city in the red state, has a decrease in hate crimes. Come on, for us, it might be simply be that certain places don't report them. It's up to states and cities to report the statistics.
Right. Well, and I'll let you jump in here in a second, but I don't want to get too much into the methodology of it. But I do know, to your point, I think a lot of this, and yes, hate crimes are on the rise. We see them more in the news. But why do we see them more in the news? Because they're being reported better. And more importantly, police are taking them more seriously. They're putting these things down. Because I know last year we did a story about a trans girl who was murdered, and we didn't even know about it because they were dead naming her and things like that. We didn't know for weeks afterwards. So I think the reporting is getting better. Not journalism reporting, the reporting to police is getting better. And I also think there's an onus for police, especially in large cities with a lot of minority populations. The police have to take it more seriously. And the Sacramento doesn't surprise me because Gavin Newsom is putting pressure on police departments to take our issues much more seriously. So with everything, yes, it is a more dangerous world, but also we're being taken more seriously now.
I think to kind of try to tie all of these ideas together, because to Greg's point too, the rhetoric has increased, right? Like that is like, it's not just then like the reporting or that, like, I also don't always think that higher police or law enforcement is the answer. In fact, I often think it's not. Like, so just to be clear, I don't think that sometimes hate crime legislation could be really punitive because it's often used especially against folks of color. Like that is like, they're like, some people are read as more likely to be people who commit hate crimes, even if that's not always accurate, right? Like that is the stats could be really, but then to Bobby's point, which I completely agree too, in some ways it might indicate that, as the statistics might also indicate, that someone who's a state that's reporting higher increases is actually doing a better job, right? Like that is like, that's a weird way of saying it, but that is that they're holding folks accountable in a way that others may not be, or they may not be reading or designating something as a hate crime, or so that it's. But the point is, and the takeaway that I want to take away from this, maybe selectively, is that the rhetoric is violence itself. It's inciting the violence. We are seeing an increase in violence. There's no question about it. Like, I mean, I don't think that's selective hearing. Like, that's not us like kind of picking and choosing the data. The data is there, overwhelmingly there. People have been emboldened over the last few years, no doubt, to come out as being hateful. And the rhetoric itself has increased significantly, and that has an effect.
Yeah, and the rhetoric, I don't know if the rhetoric is more.
The laws alone.
I don't know if it's just that it's more easily spread. Because there's always been these deplorable pockets of America where they sit polishing their guns and talking about how much they hate the fags and they hate the blacks and all of that. And I just, I'm sorry, what, Bobby?
No, but I mean, I'm saying that the rhetoric is spreading thanks to, well, Elon Musk. I mean,
Of course.
And the laws.
No,
and the lawmakers.
Yeah, well, we can't blame Twitter or one social platform. It's just easier spread today, than it was 15 years ago, right? At the time when social media was becoming a thing. Do you disagree?
No, I feel like we don't have to look much farther than the laws themselves. The laws are making certain things, right, seem unacceptable in general society, whether it's anti-trans or whether it's anti-immigrant or that is, the laws are part of the rhetoric. Like they're emboldening the rhetoric because it's hard to disconnect. Like there's connective tissue through all these. No, I don't disagree. Look, that never happens.
Yeah, well, and Greg, to your point, yeah, it is part of Trump because when we gave him the megaphone, he unleashed the wretched people of this country to say all the things they've been thinking. The hate's been there. It's just out there.
Yeah.